Hey, what's up, everybody? Once again, Aseer the Duke of Tears. Here I am in the beautiful Andalusia, known to most people as Florida or the Florida Republic, the Isle of Flowers. A lot of stuff going on. One thing in particular that is going to be, we were talking about before in terms of diversity of citizenship, was the fact that the people who have been designated as stateless in the United States were annexed to the United States through the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. So for people who don't understand what that means is that prior to their annexation through a war amendment, they were a party to whatever citizenship or national identity that they could hold on to outside of what was being perpetuated as the only avenue, which was the Negro, black, and colored black American slave thing. So what that did was that created a perpetual society where Caucasian people from that point over decided that they would remake the people that were already here. They did this through the Bureau of Land Management. And what that did, the Bureau of Land Management established what was called the Census Bureau. And what the census started to do was take people who were full-blooded nationals of both the international empire of the Al-Moroccan, right, or Moroccan, as you could say, as well as their tribal affiliation due to the domicile of whatever region they occupy. So if I was Cherry Smith Bay, that means I would be Cherry of the Choctaw Cherokee Smiths of the clan of Bay. Once the Moorish nationality was somewhat marginalized, they created a Negro nationality now and absorbed all of those people who were the blood inheritors and descendants of all the people who made all those mounds and built all of those castles that's in the Grand Canyon that I see from my own eyes, all the Mandinka people and Moors that were a part of the international confederation of what we'll call the Al-Maghreb, Al-Aqsa, the Morocco of the farthest west, of which the kingdom or any kingdom is inside the imperial dominion of these ecclesiastical and powerful people. So what that did was they literally created schools they call the reform schools, or there was one called the Moors Indian School, and that was basically used, and he set these up way back in the 1700s because the plan for long-range denationality of people of an imperial dynasty, they have to basically be bred out. So like right now in the Philippines, there's like 12 different sultans that have their own different constituencies all around, but their equivalent, they are basically in the same equivalent state that a lot of our so-called American Islamic people are in. Not talking about ones that have their own societies that come from other countries. Like you'll have like the Nigerian Muslim Society, you'll have this, you'll have that. But there's very, very few things for Muslims specifically, M-O-S-L-E-M-S, and there is a difference. I don't give a damn what these apologists and collaborator dirty Moors want to tell you. There is a difference. Your prophet, the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, peeped upon him, they told you that you had a distinct identity, and what makes us Muslims is the fact that we can descend and trace ourselves all the way back to the beginnings of all these so-called religions and customs and ideologies, because they grew up around us. What always made us who we are is the fact that we never gave up to our true essence of what we believe. So when people talk about the feds and everybody have issues with the feds and all of this other stuff, people say, oh, that's the feds, the white man gave people feds and all of that. Like, our people suffer from lack of knowledge, and they also suffer from hubris, where you got so much false pride about something that you've been indoctrinated to believe you are, that you don't even want to look and digest the fact that the same thing that you're saying that this white man gave me, I can show you images in iconography, in steles, in stone markings, in landmarks, where they wearing the same thing that I got on right now. before any so-called Caucasian white people ever existed, before anybody else ever existed. So what that means that I'm copying them? No, I'm carrying on a tradition that was left for me because I honor my mother, my father. So that means, according to the biblical law, all my days going to be long on the planet Earth, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, meaning giveth me, based upon me holding on to the beneficiary aspect of my dynastic bloodline and pedigree. But because y'all niggas want to be dirty, and it's so appealing for black males to project themselves as animals and gorillas. I'm not saying that they are that. I'm saying that when you constantly seeing people pointing guns in your face like this and constantly throwing up signs and giving you middle fingers and all this, and you don't even know them, but you just like the record, what you're doing is you're defecating on the same people that you want to sponsor you. That's like when you see you used to see all these rappers, they used to be there with stacks of money talking all of this and all of that, and throwing it in the audience or doing whatever they doing. Like that's cool for people who can live like that, but for the people who look at that only creates a demon of materialism that then is fed upon by their everyday circumstances. So every day they walk out they door, they feel like they can't get no money, they can't move on, they can't do this. Somebody always telling them that they nothing and this and that. And then they turn on the TV and the movie and this, and the only people they see coming up on visuals on TV are people black males who again embrace themselves as being gay or transgender or have a Caucasian woman or idealize being a drug dealer or have a basketball in their hand or a microphone, right? Like that's the only margin, that's the only way we have. What that is called is marginal relativity. You understand, these people got sociological terms that denote what you're going to be for the next 20 years. And you worrying about how you're going to pay rent tomorrow. And this is why we're at a disadvantage. You understand, we're running a race by which we're almost 240 years behind. So, being that this is the first generation for us to really get acclimated as to who and what we are, it's no wonder that we're so confused and at each other's throats and all this other stuff. That's only natural. You understand what I'm saying? Like what they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. You know what I mean? And nothing that we are doing now says that this is what we are now is what we're always going to be. We got to get out of the mud. But to do that, we got to understand that we in it. And we're still debating on why we're in the situation. Who has a solution? Why haven't black people all got together? Because not everybody understands so-called blackness the same way. If everybody had the given understanding of history to understand how things progressed in this situation, then maybe we can make more educated conclusions instead of basing everything on theories and theses. But that's what Western society is. It was a proposed theory by which a people who were the most dominant on the planet everywhere else, could they be subjugated to the point of extinction? Not physical extinction, but mental, spiritual, you understand? Divine extinction, where they then allow themselves to be remade as something else. So if you don't accept your so-called Al-Moroccan or Al-Moroccanos or American or Moorish American history, that's fine. I have no vested interest other than as your brother to let you know that you tripped for not. But that's just my role. I'm not here to force you to be about something that you spiritually may not feel that you are. Because you might be right. You may not have been a Moor. You may have been one of the ones that was fighting against the Moors. Because the Moors wasn't perfect. I'm not saying that they was the most benevolent and all that, but they were the closest thing to any semblance of the ancient world being manifested in such. The reason why where the Fez thing come from, it come from an old Canaanite. See, the thing about the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Amalekites, the Moabites, and these type of Moors and Muslims was the fact that they were so about their own culture that their expansion of the culture bettered everybody else, because their expansion of their culture was not based on subjugation. It was based on irrigation. It was based on cooperation and liberation of the people that was there. The Moors didn't even have to, when they went into Spain and did all that, they didn't have to even fight most of the time. People were so done with Roderick and these people that they was upset. So they was happy when the Moors came. That's how it used to be. It used to be a blessing to even see a Moor in that sense. Look how we have fallen. But either way, it don't matter, because the very virtue of Western society was based upon the accumulation of that knowledge that came from the Moors. So because they never would give up their own culture, there was a situation where everybody knows the story of Daniel and the Lion's Den. And what was happening was they was fighting him to take off his white, because back then the pheasant was white. Because we were the aboriginal white people, or the original white people of the world, because we were always in the semblance of the white burnous and the habitat and all of that. And so they forced him, the pagans was trying to force him to give it up, and he wouldn't. To the point that they stabbed him with the sword, and when he fell off it, the blood spattered, the fez fell off and the blood spattered red on the fez. So when they went to collect the body, his faith was in such a pristine stance that they said that the body was gone. Only thing that was left was the red fez. And then from that point on, the red fez became the symbol of liberty and justice and freedom for the entire world, for the planet. And the people who wore that were ceremonially brought down and revered in every society as the originators of that society. Because the word Moor in Egyptian, or so-called hieroglyph, or metoneter, or whatever you want to call it, means the high priests of Anu. So imagine a whole race of high priests that occupy the divinity of all of the cultures that eventually became societies, that eventually created the religions that all y'all in now. That's why they have an issue with you when you do that, because when you really go back to what this really is, on a cosmic, ancestral level, to really tap into the divine, what happens is you start to, little things start to occur. Your DNA begins to change. You start to look different. You start to talk different. You start to get into a situation where certain people just can't be around you. You can't watch the certain thing. You might get a strange aversion to wearing hats. Like I'm so in this, I can't even wear a baseball cap, G. That's how, it just don't feel right. Now, but that's me. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you got to be that heavy in it. I'm just saying that if you want to get the full fake, like when you thirsty, you don't just drink all the way down and leave this much in the cup. You drink the whole thing. So I'm saying if you really want to get right, you drink the whole thing. You don't just take this shit to get out of pocket. That's basic stuff. Do you understand that in your position, based upon your lineage and stuff like that, based upon the original stuff that was here, because you can use the Constitution and all that, like all that, those are tools. None of that stuff has anything to really do with like you as an individual. Like that stuff is just like stuff that you use while you here to verify the fact that you ain't gotta, you could be in it but not of it. That's really what that is, because you always passing through the Gentile, the Gentile population. You always passing through the 85 population. You are just there as a reminder of what can be. And right now it's all there. Everything is open for you. This nigga Trump don't give a damn about you. He don't give a damn about this country. He is there to show and prove the fact that this is the last gasp of white supremacy. Globally, that's it. It's it. When Putin came on and started talking about how he is willing to work with him and all of that, you got to understand doublespeak and statecraft. He's saying, yo, this dude, for instance, when he said that he was there, Trump was there, and he was there to get rid of ISIS. We need to stop ISIS. You got to understand, ISIS is being sponsored by members, portions of the Department of Defense, and CIA, and Mossad, and MI5, and Pakistani ISS. And well, not Spetsnaz, because they're against them. So when he's saying that he's willing to go in there and rout them out with Russia, he's basically declaring war on a segment of the military-industrial complex. Get the wax out your ears, man. This is a whole nother thing going on. This dude is all about private banking. He's all about that, but he's not about private central banking, meaning that he's a loose cannon. They're not really sure if he's gonna stick with the script. So what they would rather do is do something like maybe in the future get him impeached, or you know, do what they, you know, pull a Kennedy and then put Pence in there, because Pence will toe the line. He got the cable toe on him. They put him in there as the shield just in case this dude get crazy. We could always have a backup through the vice president. That's why the whole thing is up. So in that, what that means, brothers and sisters, is that this is the best time for you to start to practice things like group economics. This is the best time for you to practice. You can start that within your own family. Within your own family. If you have more than 3 people in your family, you can start that way. How do you do that? Whatever is the cost of whatever you have per average. Instead of creating your bill cycle on a 38-day period, do it on a 28-day period. So that way, 28, 29, 30, 31. You got 3 extra days. While everybody else is waiting for the end of the month to do their thing, you're starting to pay your bills or whatever on the 28th, which is now in tune, right, with the moon cycle of the planet. So now what happens if everybody starts to do that, right? What will happen is it will average out towards the end of the year in terms of you now being late on whatever payments that you've made. Because you put yourself now in the equilibrium of the galactic cycle of how things go. That's one thing you could do. Another thing you could do, like right now, people want to stop people in traffic stops from being killed. It's very simple, man. It's not difficult. You ain't got to protest. You ain't got to do that. What you do is get all your peoples together, and all y'all say to General Motors, BMW, Lexus or whatever, Black Caucus, Black Power, whatever, the Black Lives, whatever y'all want to call yourself, whatever it is, we represent all the black people in America, and not one of us is going to buy another car. We're not going to buy one more car in this society until you guys lobby and pay for police education, for mandatory sentencing for police brutality, for a moratorium on police killings. At least that. But y'all ain't gonna do it. Y'all ain't gonna do it. Y'all ain't gonna do it. Because luxury has dulled the edge of husbandry. Meaning that because we have so much convenience, we abhor anything that makes us have to work for something. You understand? It was Reagan that deported all of the jobs and everything out of America. He totally destroyed the American industrial system that they had in place from the time of the end of the Civil War, from 1899 on. He's the one that did that, exported all the jobs, all of that. But he's revered as he's like Ramses to them. In their little societies and stuff like that, he's like God to them. They poisoned him at the end, gave him the Alzheimer's so he could hide, and he would have to not sign off on the fact he signed off on them creating crack and selling it in the hood for the Iran-Contras, and Oliver North and them was slinging drugs back and forth the United States, and the taxpayers were paying for it. They're not gonna get into all that because that's how they've always run their society. So how can we be upset when a lot of us have actually participated in that? Not many black people work with the CIA and all of these other so-called agencies that work against black people every day, more than you think. So in that, we are all now responsible for ourselves because we are now in the real America, whereas you on your own until you get it right. So you'll starve until you do something that makes you notable, and now everybody will jump on you, and now you'll support you. So you go from not being able to afford clothes and stuff to being famous where they're not giving you clothes for free. Because the devil will always give you the opposite. And this system is run by the damn devil. But when I say the devil, I'm not just talking about the white man or the black man. I'm talking about the universal egregore, the homunculus that is unseen, that we all know is there, that is actually propelling people and jumping in the spirits and bodies of people and making them, not really making them, suggesting that they indulge their appetite in their lower self and their lower nature, which then leads to husbands killing children and mothers and stuff because he don't want to pay child support and crazy stuff like that. But just because some people are like that in our community don't mean that we all that. And we cannot continue to be lambasted and disrespected by people within your community that have put you in a position to feel like all you have is no hope or fear. You have the ability to get it popping. You have the ability to do that. Don't let these people give you knowledge and then on the other side on one Monday and then by Friday they're calling all of y'all animals and savages and y'all need to be locked up and I need to get away from you and all this type of shit. Like, how would you let somebody talk to you? That's how I know a lot of our people are sick. So if you want to get well, man, the best way to do it is to start with self. Build up your own Moorish Science Temple in America, meaning that you are the Moor who does the science within your temple in the geographical circumference of America to go to the divine and national movement. How does one do that? One does that by blocking out a lot of the excess chatter and going right to the root. Get a Circle 7 Quran and read it for yourself. Read it. Start there. Talk about declaring nationality. What does that mean? That means finding the part within yourself that resonates with the ideal, with the truth that you are not enslaved, that you are not the worst in humanity, that you are not brought over here against your will, that you are not somebody that doesn't know anything about where you really came from. Get rid of that bag, man. Stop indulging that because they keep making movies like 12 Years a Slave and The Butler and Roots and all that. All of these movies that they make usually take place between the Middle Ages in Europe, slavery, the 1950s and 60s. That's about it. Everything that they do, or future stuff. I'm not talking about science fiction. I'm just talking about the average everyday thing to keep this illusion about you being a perpetual somebody's property. Another way of declaring nationality, one of the preparatory ways of doing that is also taking a stock of those people in your life. And understanding that not everybody, just because they are in your family, are going to agree or associate with the ideology that you have now accepted as real for yourself. Because we are both sides in one. We today are comprised of those of us that was against the empire and those of us that were for it. You know what I'm saying? So you may have been descended from somebody that was instrumental in destroying the Moorish Empire. And it may be in you now awakening up into this understanding. Now you want to actually reverse that. You see what I'm saying? So you want to be upright now. A lot of us is going through that. But it doesn't mean that we're still not going to have to deal with certain things or people going to feel a certain way when they are confronted with that. Another way of really, in terms of declaration of nationality, is finding a credible temple. I get emails all the time. How do I know which temple is real? How do I know it's this? How do I know it's that? I don't have a list currently of every Moorish Science temple in the country. I'm working on it. But the list that I would create would be those that are not affiliated under a 501c3 ship. So that would make the number considerably smaller. See what I'm saying? And not because Moors that are in 501c3 temples are somehow wrong or they're bad or they're evil or they hate the prophet. I'm not into all of that. I'm just saying that when it comes down to it, on the backside of what you're doing publicly, if you're not building with the people on civics and you're not understanding the difference between what is lawful and legal, you don't have a grand sheik or a body that can actively disseminate the difference between what is standard within the original temple and what was created after reorganization in 1938. You understand? That's what I'm talking about. Like if I was to go to the Lions Club right now and I wanted to see the roster of the Lions Club in the 1800s, they could show me that. You understand what I'm saying? They have an itemized breakdown of how their Rotarian complexion government runs. So we can have that too. But because the head of the original temple was cut and then the people didn't really understand that, the body was flailing around, and so people started to come in and put their own stuff in. So another way, so that's when I started to see that that was the real. That's when I realized that anything that I could get out of this, I would have to really go out and search for that myself, because a lot of these grand sheiks had too much hubris to even tell me that they didn't know. You have people purporting to have governments and stuff like that, and now all that's great. You know what I'm saying? I'm not hating on none of that. I want my people to win. If you doing something for real, I want you to win. But don't win at the expense of your soul, my intelligence, the people's intelligence, and what can actively be done. Don't try to act like you the one that's making some new shit when we all just regurgitating or creating what was left for us by one of the greatest men in history, the Prophet Noble Jew Ali, as well as Marcus Garvey, as well as Deuce Muhammad, as well as all of the Moors that were a part of that plan of experts in 1928 that worked to get us to this point. But Moors don't even know who half of the people I'm talking about is. Why did Elijah Muhammad, Robert Poole Bey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him, why did he tell you when you get the Quran that the Arabs in them read, only get the version translated by Yusuf Ali? Why him? Who was Yusuf Ali? You don't even know. Now you will, because now they'll go and now you'll see people do tapes or whatever, try to mention him like it was all. But why him? Because these Moors, as much as they don't like to let it be known, a lot of our people that we revere as individuals were actively a part of a collective. You think that Capone ain't know the Prophet? And they both was in Chicago during the so-called Roaring 20s? You don't think that? How? And then ask yourself, how did he meet Woodrow Wilson? How you just walk up in there and do that? At a time when most Negroes couldn't even look a white man in the face. You understand? There's whole stories about there was whole towns of Moors who was living in Jim Crow South and was not being exploited and messed with at all. It's only when they started to deal with people who were stateless and was running away again from their own obligations. The Declaration of Nationality is the definitive stance that makes you an American. What makes you an American is you have to declare that you're independent or undependent of Europe and England, which would mean the British Crown, see, I was going to say British Clown, the British Clowns and the Vatican Clowns, or the British Crowns and the Vatican Crown. We already broke away from the British. Now you got to do it from the Pope. But the Pope done made it easy for you to receive your old estates again. But these Negroes want you to get wrapped up in the idea of you being a 14th Amendment United States citizen. So yes, the United States of America is indeed a country. General Constable is indeed a country. America, the beautiful, is a country. The United States corporation is something different. CIA and all them, they all got Dun and Bradstreet numbers. So they doing business. So let's focus on what's important. Understand that the declaration comes from you, not a website. And there are ways to do that specifically again. But again, for me to be specifically into it, I gotta speak to you privately. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm not one of these ones that's going to be out here and having people taking stuff and doing what they already doing. They got whole award shows now, right? For so-called black power and all that. And Moors is getting shot dead in the street still. They giving each other awards for this. So what that shows me is that we are now merging the whole pseudo-Christian people coming out the church with the Moors that know, with the pseudo-undeclared and declared Moors that know a little bit, that's going to garner that into a little mainstream. We sprinkle a little boule on that, right? Put a little boule on that. Let's get David and this one and this one. And now, boom. Now, by the time we get to the fourth one, now this is what Black Power is going to be. But I was there for the real Black Matter Power, Dark Matter Power, when Bobby and Phil and Blair and so many, Coakley, Myra Shearer L, Bless the Dead, Prince Uriel Bey, all of these people who, Francis Cress Wilson, all of these great ancestors, giants, gods, we don't even know how they died. Half of them died penniless. Dr. Ben. So again, man, let's be ourselves. Let's be under our own vine and fig tree. You want to holler at me at houseofbell@hotmail.com, but don't holler at me about whether or not what this one think about it or that one. I'm not into none of that, man. I'm really into working with the people that want to be worked with and vice versa. I can't do none of all of this by myself. Anything that I've done by the grace of Allah, my will, my queen, you know what I'm saying? At a detriment at times to our own relationship. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I don't I don't gotta debate. I ain't gotta argue. I ain't gotta do none of that. People could think that's arrogant, whatever. That's on you, homie. I know me. I know what I've done. I know what I'm doing, and I don't have to be out here on these media platforms always spouting about how great and all of that I am. No, you're not gonna see none of that from me. What you're gonna see is the work. So inshallah, let's move forward. The next joint, we're gonna get more into marginal leveraging. That's the next joint.